Diolch, Llywydd, and thanks, Minister, for your statement today. Local government reform brings with it an opportunity, and I think reforms could work well as long as the main aim is to bring local government closer to the people it serves. So the issue of localism, I think, is key. Now, you've highlighted a bigger role for town and community councils. I think that is a promising path to go down in some cases. In rural and semi-rural areas, these councils can play a strong and relevant role. And you mentioned the way in which they have, in some cases, saved local libraries and other services by taking over their running. That kind of action is certainly to be recommended when local services are threatened. But what would be your recommended course of action when services are under threat in more urban areas which don't have community councils? What would be the role, for instance, of voluntary groups? Which could serve a very relevant role, but would there be issues there of democracy and a democratic mandate to run things? So I'd be interested in your thoughts on that. As you point out, there is a mixed bag of town and community councils across Wales. So again, what happens when local services are under threat in an area where the local community council isn't doing much? Given that so many services are threatened nowadays, should there be some kind of handbook of action from you as a minister as to how local services can best be defended in these instances? As to your proposed changes to the conduct of elections in Wales, I look forward to hearing your thoughts at the end of the consultation period. Clearly, you are committed to trying to bring about certain specific changes, such as the voting age, whilst you are more open-minded on others. I think there is a lot to discuss on the changes to election rules, and we will probably have a robust debate on these kind of proposals later in the year. But I hope you do tread carefully as you consider pertinent issues like internet security. I think most members would agree that being an election returning officer should be a statutory duty of a council chief executive and should be part of his or her regular workload without any additional payments involved. So I tend to agree with you on that point, and I hope you press on with that. On the issue of council employees being able to stand as candidates, I believe people like dinner ladies and lollipop men and other people in similar roles should be allowed to stand in council elections. So a change to the rules here would be commendable, as Janet Finch-Saunders has brought to light, and as you've done very well in bringing in as part of your proposals. The question is, at what level of local government officer do you draw the line on eligibility? So I wonder if you would give me your thoughts on where exactly you feel that line should be drawn. On the issue of independent councillors, I think it is a fair point that if they are party members, the public has a right to know. But how do you intend to elicit this information, and what will happen to candidates who fail to disclose party membership? On the subject of AMs doubling up as councillors, I think this is a contentious point. As I've never been a councillor, I'm not really qualified to judge whether you can successfully do both. You yourself were once a councillor and are now an AM, but never simultaneously, as far as I know. But I know of at least one member here who did both jobs for a few years. So I think it is not impossible to double up. The problem may be that the AM salary is certainly a full-time salary. So perhaps if an AM wants to remain as a councillor, perhaps there should be a prohibition on claiming the councillor salary. So if he or she wants to remain as a councillor, the council duties would be undertaken as unpaid duties. So I wonder if you think that might be an acceptable compromise in this instance. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, Llywydd, and thank the member for those questions. Can I say that I think you made a series of important points about town and community councils. My assessment of the sector, having asked about it in all parts of Wales, is that where town and community councils have a good relationship with their principal authority, where they have a level of resource and a level of ambition, then they are doing more important public service work today than they probably ever have before in helping to defend local communities against the effects of austerity. The problem is that too often and in too many parts, the relationship isn't as good as it should be, the resource base of very small community councils isn't sufficient to allow them to take on a wider range of duties, and probably most significant of all, the ambition is not always there to do so. So the challenge that I have set for the review team is to try and identify the ingredients that are making for successful town and community councils, and to be very positive of the good work they are doing, but to then ask, how can we generalise that into other parts of Wales, potentially including parts of Wales where town and community councils don't currently exist. In the meantime, we are producing, with our town and community councils, with One Voice Wales, a handbook, a workbook to allow town and community councils who are willing to do more than they have in the past, to learn the lessons of those who have done it successfully already, and to be able to help them through that process. As far as conduct of elections is concerned, Gareth Bennett raised the very important issue of internet security. We asked the question in the consultation paper, are we yet at the stage where we could allow voting to take place on your phone or on your tablet or on your computer? We do many other things in many other parts of our lives, internet banking and so on, that require high levels of security. But I think it's an important question. I want to rehearse it in the consultation exercise. Old-fashioned as our current system may be, one of its great strengths, Llywydd, is that it is trusted by people. You go, you put your cross on the ballot paper, you take the paper yourself, you put it into the ballot box, you can see how the system is working. I think we would want to think carefully about moving in directions where people's trust in the integrity of the process could be more easily undermined, but we want to know what people in Wales think about it. Gareth Bennett pointed to our proposals for making returning officers, making chief executives statutorily the returning officers in local elections, and abolishing the current system of personal fees. We raised the question of where to draw the line in local authority employees. I don't have a fixed position on that. I do think it's an important question to rehearse. I think trade unions and others will have important views to contribute to us there. I think it is right that candidates who are members of a political party should declare that as part of their candidacy. There is nothing to stop anybody standing as an independent. But I think if you do put yourself forward as an independent, and you've been a member of a political party within the last 12 months, then voters are entitled to know that that is the case. They then take it into account with everything else that they take into account in deciding who to vote for. We propose in our consultation that there shouldn't be a dual mandate, that people should not be able to be assembly members and members of a local authority at the same time. There is the issue of pay, as Gareth Bennett said. Being an assembly member is paid as a full-time job, and we think it should be that. But there are conflicts of interest as well that are not simply to do with pay. We make very important decisions here that affect local authorities, and we think it's an uncomfortable position to be both the provider and the recipient of those decisions, and our proposal is that we should not allow that to happen in the future.